Yeah, gotta say, I really wasn't expecting to need this hat again so soon, but here we are. We've got Christmas in May with the latest episode of MLP, A Hearthwarming Tale, a full-on musical interpretation of a beloved Christmas classic. Which just kind of amuses me. Hearthbreakers was certainly holiday-themed, but its plot and presentation were such that it wasn't so overwhelmingly different from a standard episode, and it got to air in fall. Hearthwarming Eve, meanwhile, being the holiday's origin story, was more of an extended glance into equestrian world lore than anything that felt particularly like Christmas as we know it, and it got to air just days before the holiday. This one, though, where it's all so overtly and completely tied into our idea of Christmas, where it really and truly feels like a Christmas special, it comes to us at the start of summer, probably the exact time of the year when the holidays are least on people's minds. It also comes strangely soon after the last episode about this annual holiday, and while that is going to do nothing for anyone trying to make sense of the series' timeline, I'm not about to complain because this third Hearthwarming episode is not only the most Christmassy, it's also the very best of the three. With its memorable songs, humor, and warmly delivered message of holiday cheer, it succeeds in being just plain fun. And I say that knowing what some are going to say. A Christmas Carol? Really? And it's not like I don't understand where they're coming from there. The Dickens classic certainly has left an indelible mark on our culture and our media, to the point where it can seem like we've been rather bombarded with the thing through our lives, what with the endless barrage of adaptations, parodies, and reimaginings thrust in front of us each holiday season. And while I can definitely see the appeal that it has for creators, it's this great story that everyone knows, moving and powerful. And reading it, it is clear why it has been so enduring to the point where it's credited with greatly shaping how we celebrate Christmas to this day. It's also easy to see why some would feel like it's simply been overdone. An MLP take on the story really was about the least original concept the writers could have come up with here, especially given we sort of already had one. For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils took clear inspiration from the novella with its little presentation of past, present, and future to induce a change of heart, and there it was incorporated in a much more original context. Doing a more true-to-form rendition of the same source, it really wasn't something that needed to happen. That said, even an obvious idea can lead to amazing things with the right execution, and this episode definitely gets it right. Well, mostly at least. The thing with Dickens' story is that it is so well balanced in the case that it presents to Scrooge, which is why it kind of irks me when I see people attempt to dismiss the story as a simple guilt trip, like Tiny Tim is the only thing that matters. Each of the spirits is absolutely crucial. The past spirit scenes not only explain to the reader why Scrooge is who he is, but they also have the character progress as he reflects over that which he has lost and the relationships he has seen broken. The present spirit presents him, yes, with the struggles of the poor as represented by Tiny Tim, but also with the general cheer and sense of togetherness found on the holiday, and with the compassion for him that still does exist in his nephew despite his behavior. Then there's the future spirit who confronts Scrooge with the fact that if he does not change, he'll die unmourned and ridiculed, some even rejoicing at his passing. But, as with Tiny Tim, the final spirit's effect on Scrooge is often overstated due to how memorable it is. Scrooge isn't simply frightened into changing his ways. No, he's already a changed man by the time he reads his name off of the gravestone. Everything he's been shown, it's all built up as his way of thinking has been deconstructed, and he's confronted with just how miserable he is. Changing the story even slightly is something that risks throwing off the balance that it achieves. And the episode definitely did make some changes. The biggest of which being that Snowfall Frost doesn't just think that Hearthwarming is a humbug. No, much like that other famous Christmas hater, the Grinch, she wants to actively destroy the holiday entirely. And unlike the Grinch, with her magic, she has the means to do so in the most complete sense, erasing it and not just removing the material aspects. On one hand, this actually does work for setting up the premise pretty well. After all, even with original story, if you really want to be cynical, you can step back and ask why do all these supernatural entities care so much to see a single rich old man become a little nicer to people before he dies? With Snowfall about to rewrite the fabric of reality, and in doing so ensure mass destruction across Equestria, supernatural intervention feels a bit more warranted. On the other hand, it does indeed hurt the balance. Applejack is like, you loved Christmas until Professor Snape told you shouldn't. Then Pinky is like, look, Christmas is awesome. And then Luna shows up and it's, oh yeah, by the way, if you do this, you're literally going to destroy Equestria. Almost feels like they should have led with that, you know? I mean, yeah, the spirits want to change her and not just stop her, I guess, but the extent of it all just makes the first two spirits feel a bit inconsequential where they really shouldn't. I won't go so far as to say that it feels like Snowfall is compelled to change by what the future spirit shows her alone, since some of what the other two spirits said did seem to have her considering things, but it just doesn't feel as right to me as in the original. It does make for a rather nice parallel to the actual Starlight's character, however. Just as with Starlight herself, Snowfall's worldview, her extremism, it stemmed from a single moment as a child. Also like Starlight, we see that she's a pony keen to force her values onto the world, and ultimately it's being confronted with the empty future her path leads to, which convinces her that she should find a different way. In an odd sort of way, I think the parallel presented here actually reinforces our idea of who Starlight herself is as a pony. Some are bound to dismiss this episode as simply being filler considering the story within a story nature of it, and others may question just how much Starlight's mind was truly swayed about the holiday just from Twilight reading her the story, but I actually think it does progress her character arc somewhat, albeit certainly not as much as something like the Crystalling or No Second Prances. While at the start she might question Snowfall's extremism, blind to how it compares to her own, it is easy to see how Starlight would relate to the story and ultimately be affected by it. Also, it's not like she was herself any kind of hardcore Scrooge. She was more just apathetic, dismissive, but far from hostile toward the holiday. I think a nice story is enough to go from that to, well, I guess I'll give it a shot. And seeing her join in on the celebration in the end, it does feel like progression to me, no matter how small a one it might be. I've also seen some questioning whether the slight change of the Scrooge character from miserly miser to busybody out to improve Equestria has questionable connotations. Just as the show itself once attracted criticism as anti-intellectual for how studious Twilight was encouraged to pull her nose out of her books and make some friends, a case could be made that we're celebrating consumerism over hard work and effort. As with Kathleen Richter's infamous article, though, I think the argument is a fairly half-baked one. Because it's not really about that. No one is suggesting that Twilight or Snowfall should abandon her pursuits entirely, stop studying and become Pinkie Pie. It's about leading a more complete life and taking time to share in it with those dear to you. And in Snowfall's case, how it's fine to just take a break from it all and allow yourself to celebrate the things and people that you do have in your life. As for the pro-consumerism angle, well, did you forget that you're watching a toy commercial? The show is produced by Hasbro. You should not be too surprised to have the importance of presents to the holiday stressed here. But enough about all that. The episode was a musical, and really any musical lives or dies on the strength of its songs. So, yeah, let's take a look at each of them. The opening song, Hearthwarming Eve is Here Once Again, is a big catchy holiday sing-along led by a choir, with a line or two each being provided by our main characters. So, basically it's a lot like the title song from It's a Pony Kind of Christmas, only, about the actual right holiday. And also a bit better. The lyrics, which are comprised of short staccato phrases, are breezier and less awkward, and the arrangement is more joyful and exciting. It genuinely feels like a Christmas song should, and as such sets the mood for the episode. I might have said in the album review that Christmas music wasn't always my thing, but this is how to capture the genre perfectly. It really is just the right note to start on. And end on, the bookending reprise of it led by Starlight is almost just as good. Starlight's verse shows her reflecting on her experience, which I like to see. I like hearing her sing about letting go of the past and living for the present with her friends. It's satisfying to me, as is the chorus when it kicks back in the end. Both the initial song and the reprise are bolstered by lots of great scenes of the ponies of Ponyville singing and just getting in the holiday spirit, and together they form the perfect frame for the episode as a whole. The derpy bits in particular represent, in my opinion, some of the best use of her we've had in a while. It's also really nice to see some of the less seen family members like Rarity's parents and Rainbow's dad show up in the crowd among the Ponyville regulars. The first in-story song, Say Goodbye to the Holiday, is a villain song in the Disney tradition, with Starlight Glimmer as Snowfall Frost singing her way through her evil plan in the most gleefully over-the-top way. And like most villain songs in musicals, it's a definite highlight. Kelly Sheridan has shown her talent for singing as the character in previous songs, but while In Our Town was amazing for what it was, this more standard stab at the villain song mold has her shining in a whole new way. Her vocals are seriously emotive here, going from annoyed to mocking to cunning to downright sinister as the lyrics call for it. The lyrics themselves are hook-laden and serve the song well, as does the accompanying animation, which features some rather impressive lighting effects to capture just the right ominous mood. The following song, The Seeds of the Past, isn't quite as much my thing, though I do still enjoy it. My problems are mostly with the opening verse, the part of the song with the really forward country instrumentation. I just don't know if it serves the song. It's more like it simply exists to remind us that this is an Applejack song, which, yeah, kinda worked that out on my own. I do like the lyrics on the verse okay, but it just overall fails to really get me too excited. The song greatly improves when we get to the chorus and it all slows down and becomes more orchestral, and the second half of the song after the dialogue is actually pretty impeccable, with what are some of the most effective lyrics in the entire episode. I really love Applejack's assertions about Snowfall's character, because it's things I've been saying about Starlight for a while now. That moment we saw in the cutie remark, it was just the seed planted in the mind of a young and impressionable Starlight. She built up her walls and let it gradually shape her into the pony that she would eventually become. While I'm sure the AJ fans out there are less fond of them for how they keep this from becoming the first ever pure AJ song, I really adore the few lines given to Starlight at the end. They're just so wrought with emotion and serve to encapsulate perfectly how the character is affected by what she sees. It's a great little moment. Then there's the Pinky song, Pinky's Present. This is my favorite in the episode and possibly my favorite Pinky solo song in the series to this point. Which I know is a bold statement, especially considering how much love Smile gets, but I can't help it. I just adore the swinging brass band sound here, and the lyrics are super hooky and fun. Pinky's enthusiasm is just a thorough delight. I also like that it's the only song here aside from the opening one which is something of a Christmas song, especially since, if you recall, I didn't exactly care for Pinky's song on the actual Christmas album. Now I can listen to this one instead. Also, the tap dancing interlude is adorable as can be, with its cute little nod to the source that the episode is borrowing from. Given the Present Spirit sequence as a whole is the least effective in regards to the story and the impression we see it have on Snowfall, though it is funny, I think it really needed a song this amazing to help it stand out regardless. I cannot imagine listening to this and not having my mood improved. Finally, we have the song that doubtless made bronies worldwide cry out in sheer delight, Luna's Future. And it's easy to understand why that is, even ignoring the fandom's bizarre obsession with their favorite princess. The dark, ominous feel of it all, buoyed so perfectly with the haunting, chilling vocals provided by Luna's new singing VA, Aloma Steele, it really is irresistible. After a few listens, though, it started to really leave me wanting more. And I mean that in the most literal sense. What is here is perfect, but it just feels like there should be more of it, like the song is actually incomplete. A lot of the problem, I think, is that the music is sustained well after the singing stops through the dialogue which follows it, so it has you expecting Luna's going to start singing again, but then she never does. There's all this great tension and build-up across the thing, but then there's no real release for it. Way to be a giant tease, Luna. Literally giant, as is the case. Seriously though, even just a short refrain before the scene changes would have made it feel a lot more right. Personally, I would have just rewritten the dialogue into lyrics, have a faster call and response bit between Luna and Starlight, ending with some more particularly dire stuff from Luna, accompanied by some harsh chords, and have that just be the entire scene. That'd be amazing. But no, what could have been the best song here ends up falling short just for feeling largely unfinished. It's still all kinds of awesome though, and really I'm just picking nits in general here, as all in all, these songs are all great. Nothing in this episode is quite a true friend, but of the musical episodes I would say that this one actually is the most consistent overall in song quality. If nothing else, new to writing episodes but not new to the show itself episode writer Mike Vogel has proven himself right out of the gate to be one of the best lyricists on the show writing staff, and Daniel Ingram and co deserve all credit for the wonderful musical arrangements that they provided here. This is also probably the best paced of the musical episodes. Pacing is a common complaint with them, particularly Magical Mystery Cure and Crusaders of the Lost Mark, and while personally I do think both of those episodes are successful, the musical nature of them being the very thing which allows the more accelerated pacing there to work, just for how much emotion and meaning can be worked into a single song, it's hard to deny that this one does indeed outdo them in that regard. Perhaps it's just that it's using as its framework a classic story that we all know, but it just feels natural and agreeable. Even with the framing scenes where we take a step back from it and check in with Twilight, Starlight, and Spike, the story moves at just the right rate. The aforementioned stuff with Luna being the only point where it feels like a scene is gone before it should be. So, yeah, in short, A Hearthwarming Tale is a masterfully crafted, rewarding event of an episode which does well by its lauded literary inspiration. And it's right up there with Season 6's very best episodes so far. This has been a RarityDash review. Thanks for watching, and whatever time of year it might be, I hope you find yourself full of hearthwarming cheer.